Greetings, Illumineers! A new year brings a new outlook on Disney Lorcana. Just a little more than 2 years ago, Disney Lorcana launched and was a massive initial success. However, that early hype has had a hard time sustaining itself through these first few years. A lot of things happened in 2025 that seem to have fundamentally changed what the game is and where it's going. For better or for worse, the game is in a vastly different spot than it was at the start of 2025 or 2024. I don't want to dwell too much on the failures and instead look ahead to the things that could help bring back the spark for players that may have stepped away, as well as draw in and keep new players. Local leagues are essentially the backbone of this game. Without a digital client, more ranting on that in a little bit, it's the main way that a majority of players are going to engage with Lorcana. Show up at your store, play a friendly, low-ish stakes event, maybe take home some prize and have fun along the way. This formula just, though, gets stale for many people, even myself. If I'm not recording for content, I often ask myself, would I even be playing this week if I wasn't making videos? And that question gets harder to answer once I get my pin for the season. There has to be a good reason for players to show up at their store, and here are some hopes and ideas that might help that. First, bring back pins. This change alone, which is removing the pins, is kind of a massive slap in the face to those who grind their local leagues week in, week out. Those pins were huge motivation for a lot of players, and removing them for the upcoming kits is kind of inexcusable. I don't care what they cost. Cut something else to make sure they can return. Oh, but they'll run out of color pins. I don't care. You will not run out of character pins, and those are the ones that are hugely popular. You're producing hundreds of new pieces of art per set and can easily pull 2 of them to make that shiny new pin that everybody wants to earn. The next thing is bonus card packs, specifically prizing that is individual to stores beyond the organized play kit. Some stores will supplement their prizes with store credit or booster packs of the current set, but something like those fabled story memories promo packs from Japan would be an incredible carrot to dangle for those playing leagues. Imagine a special promo booster with just a few cards in it, but maybe like a guaranteed slot for some kind of high-impact card, like a random rarity foil, or a card that's guaranteed to be super rare or above, with a decent chance at a legendary, and some slot for some guaranteed special card, ranging from some random epic card to an unlikely but possible enchanted or iconic. I say this as our local stores use booster packs to supplement prizing, a pack on entry and packs out to the top X finishers, which is pretty cool, but once you kind of have the cards you need, a lot of these openings are just disappointing bulk, and the likelihood of hitting something crazy is extremely small. Effectively, the prizes don't really matter, and especially for those of us with fully built decks. Making the prizes actually something to go after or add some option in addition to the stamps could go a long way. While not specifically leagues, the set champ structure also could use some reworking. They have definitely tried a lot of things, specifically varying the kinds of quantities of promos and playmats, and there's got to be a balance of feeling that something is special, but not feeling like your time is being wasted, and that promo just needs to be something interesting or relevant. Again, hard to plan in advance, but man, Maleficent was such an awesome promo, and many of the others were extremely lackluster and kind of unplayable, which is going to matter to a lot of the players like us heavily invested in competition and winning these things. I will say though, making the top X promo from 4 to 8 was definitely a great idea, but we absolutely need to bring back that second place playmat. Lorcana as a game is incredibly fun and easy to pick up and not terribly expensive, especially compared to other games, but it needs to have butts in seats for local play. And hopefully some improvements in these motivations beyond just play for fun will help fill those seats. But leagues are only a part of organized play. There has to be more. I know that, at least for the current season, Ravensburger are trying to fill some of the gaps in their DLC schedule with CCQs, or Challenge Championship Qualifiers, smaller independently run events with DLC-like prizes and support for a Nationals invite. In fact, come see me, I'll be working at one that's in San Diego this May. Tickets are on sale right now. I'll have a link on screen with some information for you and some other links down below. But it's currently too chaotic and unstructured for Ravensburger to rely on this in the future. I don't know exactly what the solution is, but there has to be some kind of regular regiment of events to motivate players to innovate and practice and something to strive for. We have a highly competitive group of players here in Southern California, even in San Diego, but we have people that just kind of peter out. The Set Champs is more about the gamesmanship of minimizing friendly fire between our plethora of Day 2 DLC players, and when there isn't an event to plan or practice for, people just don't show up. I've personally hosted at least one big San Diego tournament, and that was on the release of Fabled. I'll have links in the description for our live stream on that as well, and there was huge excitement for that. Our upcoming CCQ is also an incredible gift to our Southern California community, but these things are few and far between, and they're not DLCs. Personal challenges aside, remember I'm juggling 2 kids and a busy full-time teaching job with this, I hope to play a part in continuing our local events as often as we can. But what we really need more than anything is a vast increase in DLCs. I know that Season 2 was plagued by challenges, not the least of which was rebuilding the entire tournament structure with a new tournament organizer. This season, while extremely thin, feels like they're trying to cobble together whatever they could in the short turnaround time that they had since swapping TOs. I'm grateful that they're able to get things together at all, but this is just not enough. And I don't want to dwell on what could be or what could have been, because at least until the end of the season, this stuff is set in stone. As of writing this, we have a DLC coming up in North America in just a couple of days, with weirdly little buzz around it. We have one more coming up for the rest of this season, and that's 6 months from now, in a format that few people even play, which I'll talk about Infinity in a little bit. I'm trying to look at the future and see what might be coming, but it's really hard to see past the apathy for these big events when there's so little fanfare for a DLC right now, and effectively nothing for 6 months. For Season 3, Ravensburger really needs to pull out all the stops. I can't speak for Europe, but at least for North America, there needs to be geographical diversity of locations, even if it's just in the US. East Coast, West Coast, and Central, not just 3 events a couple hundred miles apart from each other in the Midwest. And they need to be more often, at least once per set, to highlight and showcase that set and motivate people to buy cards, rip packs, and practice at their locals. As it stands right now, after Richmond, there's not a whole lot of reason for players to buy cards or play outside their own local scene, and I hope that changes. I really want to believe Greg and the other great faces at Ravensburger that things are being worked on behind the scenes, especially as a huge push for Season 3, because I don't want to think about what would happen if it ends up being as flat and lackluster as Season 2 has been. Having more events also alleviates the stressors of each individual event too. As of right now, it's a slaughterhouse of server crashes and effective DDoS attacks trying to buy tickets for a DLC. The demand is there, and we need more events to support that. Also, yada yada, fix the horrendous ticket buying methods, whatever. Hopefully, other mitigation means like more events should help that too. Springboarding off DLC level events, it would also be cool to see a system to encourage young people to play in the same sense that kind of Pokemon has. Now, I'm personally not familiar with that, but when one of our locals explained it to me, it seemed like a no-brainer for Lorcana to have something similar. Having a bracket for something like 12 and under invites a generation of players or families to compete and play together, and more specifically, to play with folks that are perhaps more on their level. If kids decide that it's too easy for them and they want to compete in the big leagues, they should be able to. I'm looking at you, Aiden, and some of our other locals, but it would be awesome to have a place for those kids to learn and play and grow and develop without being repeatedly crushed by 30-something-year-olds with $500 decks. Rotation hit a lot of players hard, really hard, and played a non-zero part in hurting the player base turnouts at a lot of stores. Players lost their decks, a lot of their favorite cards, and felt like they had to completely start over. In of itself, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is an inevitable consequence of a living card game. Something has to be done to keep the game fresh and evolving, and this was the system that was chosen based on the success of one of the most popular TCGs on Earth for the last 30 years, Magic the Gathering. It was either periodically and predictably rotate out sets of cards every so often, or they would have to systematically ban individual cards indefinitely. So Ravensburger chose the latter, and while it was probably the right choice, it still kind of hurts to have happened. The identity of Lorcana felt like it was gone. Staple cards, staple decks, characters and songs which defined the game for 2 years effectively vanished overnight, replaced with Blurple and yellow aggro piles, I guess. It's from a meta and deck building perspective, the game was definitely evolving to a new place, more focused on board control and spiraling advantages without the requisite panic buttons that many pre-rotation decks kind of really enjoyed. It was a shift towards more board state management above all else. Not necessarily a better or worse thing, but definitely different for those who are used to Be Prepared or A Whole New World or Lucky Dime or Goat Fox Goat. Rotation is a thing that we will continue to live with, like it or not, and so Ravensburger needs to be on top of driving players to stores to play so we don't lose them. While the initial announcement felt like it came very suddenly, we now know what to expect for next time, and hopefully the attrition rate isn't going to be as drastic next fall. Those who are upset at the loss of their decks could go play Infinity, right? In fact, I even made a joke video about this a while back, talking exactly about that. But the reality is the format is wholly unsupported and kind of in a state of disarray. There's no kind of meaningful management, and perhaps that's by design. That being said, I'm incredibly optimistic about the possibilities for the future of this format. I spent years playing Modern in Magic, effectively the same idea, a bunch of non-rotating sets collected in a format designed to play all the cool and broken cards of the past. And I think the upcoming DLC, as well as our CCQ, will help serve as kind of an important data point for shaping the future of the format, most notably whether any bans or other curation needs to happen. Will Sapphire items be just too broken, or are there any other powerful strategies that go under or around it, or anything else? That being said, outside of this DLC and our CCQ, the Infinity seems basically non-existent to players. The recent Infinity weekend felt like a complete disaster. A lackluster reception and low turnouts across the board, not to mention a promo card that seemed to be plagued with print quality issues. Either way, it's not a great look to kick off the format, and with an overall lower player base in general, it's hard for stores to want to justify supporting multiple formats for a game that's already struggling to fire leagues at all in some areas. For Infinity to be successful, it has to have both a robust player base at the local level and an interesting and engaging meta. This is both unique from core, but also not broken and lopsided. I think we'll have a much more solid picture of Infinity and where it's going after Indianapolis. But one of the biggest things hindering the explosive popularity and success that Lorcana had in 2024 is the lack of a digital client. I cannot stress enough how vital such a thing would be to the longevity, hype, excitement, and general accessibility to the game and its players. For those looking to get in, it would be the fastest and easiest way to hook players, especially if they adopted a free-to-play can-buy packs model similar to Magic Arena. Imagine a software filled with the whimsy and charm of the wonderful little trailers for each of our sets, background details that give life to the cards in the play area, jumping through guided tutorial modes, being able to play against bots or online against other players. All of these things seek to grow adoption, support, and love for the game. Imagine this kind of model. Free to play, get some minuscule amount of whatever the game currency is per day to play, and so you could theoretically just grind and play to earn enough currency to upgrade your decks if you wanted to, buy packs if you can. Now, It'll be a given that there's some online store where you could buy packs from sets, perhaps even the pre-con decks, for reduced prices since they're not that good or powerful, but imagine if they committed to tying that with paper products. Each product, a pack, a starter deck, or whatever, would come with a barcode for a digital copy of that product, perhaps even with a bonus like card backs or dice skins from a trove, life counters, or other items to display on your digital board, which you could use in-game. Even better, to be able to redeem real physical cards in some way, maybe even just a promo or promo pack or something from the progression that you've made in the digital game. It would both work wonders to incentivize players to explore paper and digital models by rewarding them for playing either. I imagine Disney licensing is the biggest hurdle for this, as digital licensing and paper licenses are very different things, and Disney is Disney. Though I hope it gets figured out as soon as possible, because 2026 needs a digital client. Now, a side benefit to a digital client doesn't just help the player base, but the creator space too. Right now, producing gameplay content is, well, challenging to say the least. As someone who's recorded and edited nearly 2 years of weekly leagues, it takes a huge time commitment to create and edit each of these videos to a degree of polish that I'm personally pleased with. Most of mine take at least 4 to 5 hours or more between setting up the opening and the overlay graphics and editing the play-by-play and card reveals and lore changes, recording the voiceover commentary, and even the things as mundane as just building the Dreamborn list for an image and importing the big video files off of my phone. All of that just takes a ton of time, even just rendering and uploading. But imagine if I could just use OBS to record my gameplay straight off the screen with a face cam in the corner and just live commentating over my game. Instead of maybe one a week, I could be doing one a day, or at least supplement my regular weekly videos with a ton of online play. It would also be a great entry point for others too, and would be pumping out tons more content, driving more attention to the game. Right now, gameplay videos are the hardest to make. I know I personally strive to record my actual real live league play because I specifically just like capturing the kind of ambiance and essence of playing at the local game store, those little sounds you hear in the background. But if not recording for an event, then you're kind of left with mostly a contrived exhibition match that doesn't really matter. It's not to say it's without value, but it's hard to be as excited for. Especially compared to actual event recordings, even if it's just grinding on a ladder. While there are a bunch of great folks in the Lorcana content space, gameplay has by far and away been the smallest chunk. Myself and others have tried to fill that gap, but it's just really hard to meaningfully keep up. And an online client would do wonders to get more eyes onto the game from more people creating content with it. Now, before I talk about the last thing here, I want to briefly say that I imagined having a whole section about game design and balance or whatever, but honestly, they've kind of been doing a great job about that. With rare exception, there are often multiple decks that can do well at any given event, and kind of a cyclical rock, paper, scissors feel to the game. Now, while that sometimes means that your choices before an event have a larger impact on your results than it probably should, I also appreciate that there isn't just one or two dominating decks while everything else is unplayable tier 3 jank. It really feels like a good meta call with some good tech cards and a solid understanding of your alters and inking decisions can put you in a great position to do well in an event, provided that your play is clean and your focus stays tight. While I do wish decks had more of an identity to them beyond just the colors, especially when a color pair can provide radically different decks, like in the case of Emerald Amethyst right now, I also appreciate not devolving into esoteric nonsense like a lot of old Magic decks used to, like trying to explain to someone why a deck was called pickles or eggs. But perhaps in addition to color pairing, players and creators or events can add subscript or descriptor names, even just as simple as a marquee card or the aggro, control, or ramp title. Just something to distinguish it from what's usually just a pile of good stuff mid-range cards. Anyway, for as much grief as the structures and logistics of Lorcana get, the game itself is actually pretty great. And hopefully we will continue seeing cool cards, cool designs, and deck variety. I just wish that we could lean more into thematic decks more often instead of just the good stuff piles. It'd be nice if certain themes or intellectual properties and movies could tie in together a lot more structurally. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here are the products, the things you will actually buy. So far, the biggest upgrade we've seen in Lorcana products is the basic booster pack itself, specifically the inclusion of epic and iconic cards. Filling the voids above and below Enchanted, these provide those cool extras and special pieces that make opening packs feel special, and less like having to hit the one chase card or be a complete bust. I really like this step they took, and the only thing that I'd want more of is if the epics were either full art across the full card or some alternate art instead of just a zoomed in on the same art, but overall still pretty awesome. In 2026, we're also going to see some new product, specifically 2-player starter sets, which should launch with set 12, Wilds Unknown, in May. These are specifically designed for new players, but the idea is that you only have to buy one thing. I have some kind of mixed feelings about these because there are some significant changes to the contents of the products, and I don't know how that's going to work out. Yes, there are 2 decks included, and it appears some thought has definitely been put into the playstyles and balancing of the power levels between them. However, it remains to be seen whether they'll be good at stepping stones into league play or just remain a niche kitchen table product only. Plus, they're missing the bonus packs from the existing starters. Though, paired with a reasonable MSRP, it seems like a pretty good thing to recommend to a new player, and without the bonus packs to screw up your card counts, they can probably start including playsets of cards too. In addition to those, it looks like a continuation of some of the cool products introduced in 2025. More of the gift box style bundles and collector bundles, each of which have some sort of storage piece like a box or binder, and a special promo card in addition to a selection of packs. I really like these and I'm glad that they're continuing. But what other products does Lorcana really need in 2026? Honestly, probably not that much. The only thing I would think of is some slightly more expensive pre-constructed decks, kind of designed to hold their own against leagues, but that would also be kind of difficult to balance budget and power, especially across set releases. But imagine having something like Amber Emerald Dogs, a deck made with 0 legendaries. You could easily pack up a version of that deck, sell it for like $50 as a league entry or something, but again, that would require good foresight into meta decks months into the future, as this would need to be planned and built long before the corresponding set's release. Anyway, I really didn't feel like dwelling on the doom and gloom that I see across social media when it comes to Lorcana as a whole. Yes, hype is a little bit down, and yes, Season 2 is kind of mid, but I have high hopes that the upcoming sets will continue to create great game environments and that Season 3 will be as spectacular or more than Season 1. I hope that 2026 brings us more DLCs, world events that can be a huge experience and celebrated for all players, including a big live audience. I think that Lorcana is in a difficult inflection point, and the future of the game depends on surviving this challenging time and making sure to hit it out of the park in the next rounds. I really hope that that happens, because this is a game that I have connected with and enjoyed more than just about any other physical game I've ever played, and I hope that it has a long and successful future. For myself personally, I hope that 2026 expands my horizon into events and other live things that I can put on my channel, while also juggling my busy home life. I plan to keep up with content as much as I can and grow and evolve. We made it to 3,000 subs last year, maybe we make it to 5,000 this year. Anyway, I hope to be able to expand out to more types of content as I too grow in 2026. Let's have a questing good year, stay questing, and stay winning. We'll see you throughout 2026. If you enjoyed that, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you want more gameplay or breakdown videos, check out the playlist and recommendations here.